Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the Security Table. This is Chris Romeo. I'm joined by Matt Coles and Izar Tarandash. I always get your name wrong. I say your name differently every time.
Even I say my name wrong every time.
Well, I've heard so many different people say your name different ways that I'm like, no, I'm always like, I don't know what to call this guy. Mr. Taran. I know the last name. I got that right. It's Tarandash. I know that part. So.
Let's go with that guy.
Okay. Or I'll just call you Sir, maybe Mr. Tarandash. I don't know. Something.
You could call him IT.
Oh my
IT.
God.
Hello, IT.
It's in my name.
That's good. I'm going to go with that now. How do you feel about that, IT? And then someone from the IT department will literally sit up and go, I don't.
I need support. I can't comply with that kind of thing. I think somebody just took me off the shelf.
He can do these all day, folks. Like, it's not stop. He can literally keep the puns flowing. He has ChatGPT piped into an earpiece, and he has asked ChatGPT to give him all the possible terrible IT puns.
Sydney, come again? Sydney.
We do have him on a 5-second delay, though, just in case.
Well, I mean, yeah, we all know why. We know why that is. All right, now I think we're actually here to talk about something, not just goof around at lunchtime, which is what I originally wanted to do with this episode. But
wait,
you guys said
isn't that the same? Anyway.
Yeah. All right, we're back, and so the topic we wanted to chat about today is this whole idea of acronyms. It seems like in application security, you have to have a 4-letter acronym to describe anything you're doing. Or 2 letters, 3 letters, but most of them are 4 letters. And
Actually, we do have some 1-letter acronyms, too, which is...
Wait, hold on. My mind is just blown. How can you have a 1-letter out? I mean, like maybe if your name is Prince and you go by the letter P, you can have a 1-letter association with something. But what is a 1-letter algorithm?
Hold on. Where's my sign?
The language previously referred to as C.
Yeah.
There, quickly.
Signs!
CIA.
There we go.
Yeah, but there's 3. Come on, that's 3 letters.
Oh,
But it's 3 different words. They're not
True.
meant to be used together.
True.
It's not a 3-letter acronym. It is 3 1-letter acronyms.
And you know, in the Security Trainer's Handbook, I don't know if you guys have received the latest copy of the Security Trainer's Handbook, but it does say within the first 3 slides, you have to introduce CIA in any security class. Like, it's if you don't do that, you're out of the guild, you're out of the union, whatever we're under. Let's talk AppSec. So
failed our job as if we don't. Yep.
Yeah, so let's why don't you guys give us summarize a couple of these acronyms. Let's get them on the table first when we're talking about AppSec acronyms.
So I as many of you know, my start in this whole thing was a system programmer in a university department, a university CS department. And I think that the first acronym that I ever learned was RTFM. Which of course then became the mantra.
Not a security term.
Yeah, definitely.
If you don't want to be whacked across the head with a manual, it's a very, very much security term.
I think, and yeah. So do people even use that anymore?
I do.
Other than in
I
joke?
Do. Yep.
I do.
Yeah?
Yep.
You literally tell people to read the bleeping manual?
Look, it's better than saying it's not bleeping, it's read the forgotten manual. But
better.
it's much more right than telling someone, let me Google that for you.
Which is what we're all doing behind the scenes anyway.
Well, and of course, we're not talking physical manuals anymore, but that could be documentation on GitHub or whatever.
So that's like a cultural abbreviation,
right?
Like RTFM.
But it opens up for so much of security, because at the end of the day, what we want is for people to, first of all, read the documentation, understand it, and most times do what it says. But going back to the thing then. Let's see. My first security acronym, what was it? It might have been, as Matt said, CIA, although I don't think so.
I can tell you one of the earlier acronyms I recall from college was actually all the acronyms used around crypto algorithms, like CBC and AES and MD, right? Where, they're they're shortened for convenience because obviously they're potentially very long or very complex words to say. Although I don't know how complex advanced encryption standard is to speak for most people, but we concatenate or we abbreviate those things all over the place, right? And for documentation purposes, for ease of use, and then we say these words. Well, we see these acronyms as words, and sometimes actually make pronunciations with the letters, even if they don't form words, to try and make it, as a form of language in some cases.
Yeah, but I keep thinking about like after that RTFM, where things started going wrong with acronyms, and I think that I just started reading the letter soup later on when I started creating, selling, and buying stuff. But in the middle, there was that one that all of us once met, and I particularly love, FUBAR, which participates in so many different contexts of what we do around here.
Yeah, I mean, you're going back to like early internet culture here. Like that's the
what can I do? Not early 90s something. But FUBAR was a great one because not only it explains what is happening, it explains how it's happening, and it explains why it happened.
Yeah. Let's think about some things that are more on the AppSec side. Now we've had a little bit of a walk down memory lane, but when
memory lane,
yeah, memory lane maybe. But I mean, when I think AppSec acronyms, right? Let's go through the list. SAST, Static Application Security Testing. DAST, Dynamic Application Security Testing. IAST, Interactive. If static and dynamic weren't enough, now we have Interactive Application Security Testing. RASP, Runtime Application Self-Protection. CVA. Give me one. Give me another one. Hit me.
SCA.
Oh, remember
SCA?
it meant something else?
It meant something else, and now it means something different. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Software composition analysis is what people refer to it now as. What was the previous?
Code analysis.
Yes. Static code
source
analysis.
code analysis. Okay. Yeah. What else do we have? We got CVA. We got container vulnerability analysis. I've seen that one used. There's some new cloud native ones. There's, of course, the best one of all time, TM, and it doesn't mean trademark.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. That one. Yeah.
IAVS.
Oh, what's that one?
Information. Sorry, is that information assurance vulnerability? It's a set of acronyms. Information. I'll have to look it up. I know it exists.
So
I don't know.
it is literally a grouping of another set of acronyms. So we have two levels of acronyms. Like we use this one to describe all of it. Now, don't even get me started about EDR, MDR, XDR, ZDR.
Oh,
Have you guys seen ZDR? It's the Zebra Detection and Response. It's this new thing I'm trying to get going.
I don't know what that is.
I just think Z sounds better. Like everybody's got a DR solution, so I just threw one out there,
And I'm loving all the cloud ones: CPM, CSPM, C. There's a couple more that start with C and end with M.
So here's IAVS. I remember seeing the term, but it is very confusing. It's Intelligent Active Network Vulnerability Scanner. The N is silent.
That's like the S in IoT, or the security in IoT is silent. So the S in the IoT is silent. But yeah, and I think, when we think about all these different algorithms, I keep calling them algorithms or abbreviations. Like one of the challenges is that AppSec people, we tend to use these things and we don't always stop and security people, I think this is a bigger than AppSec. This is a security people thing. We tend to use these little abbreviations that we have and not always stopping to ensure that everybody in the conversation understands all these different things. And so that's one of the challenges that we have with using all these shortcuts is stopping to explain what they are. And it makes me think, are you guys ever watched The Office?
I haven't.
Okay. We have Office fans out there somewhere. There's an episode where Kevin Malone starts taking out letters of words because he wants to talk faster. But then at the end, they're like, but wait, you had to stop and explain all this to us. So it actually took longer.
But wait, You say that as if it's a bad thing. Like, don't forget that the overuse of acronyms is one form of jargon that people use many times to fence their little kingdoms. If I speak fast enough in a language that you don't understand, it means that A, you're not going to bother me, B, you're going to think that I am really, really smart, and C, you're going to think that I really know what I'm talking about.
And all of those are bad reasons to use acronyms.
So, and to go back again to why people use acronyms, I think that one of the, and Matt alluded to that in the beginning, I think before we started recording, one of the areas where people use acronyms the most is the military. Right, and in there, the idea is that you want to convey a fact or an idea extremely fast, extremely clearly, in a way that cannot be misconstrued. So, in radio messages, they found this way of passing whole ideas in very short acronyms, and then that gets moved to the other side of the of the operation, where they have all the acronyms to describe all the different pieces of equipment and material and whatnot that they use. So in the military, basically everything is an acronym.
Yeah, but that makes sense if all of those acronyms have a consistent, clear meaning that everyone who is using that language understands and knows. Let's use the SCA example. Use SCA as an example. You know, it has multiple expansions, right? Static code analysis, software composition analysis. And so just using that in conversation even among two security people may get different interpretation about what's being meant.
That one, I felt that like in 1 week, everybody decided to change the meaning and nobody called me.
Right.
And I had meetings like the next week and people were going, SCA this, SCA that, SCA the other one. And I'm listening to it, they're like, that's not what SCA does.
It doesn't work that way. You know?
It led to some very, very interesting exchanges. But my feeling was that one given week, everybody just decided to change the meaning.
Think about where these things come from, though. You guys know where a lot of these acronyms actually come from, especially the ones in the marketing people. But even better, they come from there's a particular organization that likes to create acronyms and then drop them on the industry by creating, let's see, 4. I'm not going to, I don't want to be specific, but they create 4 charts, charts with 4 quadrants in them.
Oh my goodness! Seriously? Oh yeah, right.
They create a lot of these. They make the market for a lot of these acronyms because marketing people can then say, we've got the best such and such, because marketing people they want to be able to fit what they're doing into a category. They want to be able to take advantage of the education of the market that's happened across everybody that's got a product in that space. And so how do you do that? You do that by buying into the acronyms and demonstrating that your product is that thing that you already know, right? Like, do any of us, we don't need a definition of what a SAST is.
So
I would say.
So that goes back to the military use of creating a clear language and maintaining an inventory, right? Because you have these products that are coming up all the time, filling niches that are being created all the time. And we still have to be able to talk about classes of things so that, especially them, so that they can compare everything under the same keys. So yeah, that makes sense.
And that extends then into organizations that work with the military, it sounds like MITRE as an example. Yeah. Which has an entire series of acronyms in their program, describing programs as opposed to describing technologies or types of systems, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other segment of acronyms we didn't even touch on yet, right? The CVE, CWE, CVSS, CWSS,
CPEC, which is nobody knows what it means.
I use the alternative pronunciation, CAPEC, but that's
and then you have ATTACK. And then you have ATTACK, which is an acronym but modifies the middle the middle thing, letter.
But yeah, Chris brings another great point. It's not only the acronyms; it's the pronunciations as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not go into the GIF, but
No, hold on. Stop. There is only one correct answer.
And it's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
No.
It's not the peanut butter.
It is a GIF.
So it is the peanut butter.
Look up the file format. The file format. I swear this is true, and I can't prove it. I swear that in the file format initially for GIF, it said JIF in the actual binary file. I'm probably completely making this up, or I had a dream about it, but I feel like
we can always ask ChatGPT to tell us the answer.
Emacs, VI, I don't care. But the truth is, back to the acronyms. So basically, at this point, almost what we need is an LOA. A list of acronyms.
You got me there. I'm sitting there for a second going, wait, what the heck is an LOA? I don't know. I know LOI, letter of intent. What's an LOA?
Damn you.
That's right. Another acronym.
So we need one of those because, we can't keep up not only with the new acronyms, but we can't even figure out the ongoing meaning of the old ones. Do we have any other acronym that changed under us, apart from STA?
Can't think of any off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I'm sure some have, but, it's that maturation of the industry.
I remember something with ZT that, of course, became Zero Trust, but before that was something else.
Might have been something in the Zigbee space.
Oh.
I think there was a ZT. It was a crossover, though, so, between different areas and stuff. But, I think, so what do we do with this, though? What are we...
Is it a good thing? We haven't decided that yet.
That's a good question.
Well,
Matt,
it depends on what you... Yeah. Contextual as to whether it's good or bad. I think you highlighted it earlier, actually. We do generally, and I say we collectively as a security industry, and probably as a technology industry in general, not just security, but sticking to security for a moment, we do, I think we do use acronyms in common language and common discourse with clients, with customers, with ourselves, or with engineers, developers, and fail to adequately expand the acronyms when we need to. Right? Good writing style is if you're going to use an acronym, you define it first, and then you can make it an acronym, and then you can use it throughout because it's a reference, right? Well, when we're talking through it, right? If you start talking about, let's say, I want you to put a HTTPS interface on your web server, and I want you to use CBC and AES, and but you might have some PKI in there. Okay, great. What did you just say? And so we do need to do a better job about that. And I think it's bad when we use them assuming that others know what we're talking about. And it's good because we can make clear, concise documentation and diagrams and other things, as long as we provide the references to what those acronyms mean.
Yeah. Yeah, it does give people a framework. It gives people a place to start if you're new to the industry. Because I like to think of these types of things from the people that are new to the industry. Like we've all been around the block 7 times, and I was just thinking about if somebody how do I approach if there's an acronym somebody uses now versus 20 years ago? Now I'm just hey, stop. What does that mean? Because I've reached the point where I realize there's so much that I don't know about security and about everything else and I just don't care if anybody looks at me and goes, how do you not know? I just want to know. Whereas 20 years ago, I would have been maybe being quiet for a while going, oh, I should know this. I don't know what that is. They're using this thing. So I think, acronyms, it's as long as those of us that have been around for a while are ensuring that we're teaching the next generation and not using acronyms as a weapon, I think they're fine.
Well, in addition to the acronym and its expansion, we also, I think, need to be careful about acronyms and their meaning. So we generally know when you say SAS, PAS, IAS, what those expands to, but it's not always clear, I think, what those scope to. right? What's the boundary of PAS or boundary of IaaS when we're talking about a system? Let's say we're doing threat modeling
But
in a
that's the
system.
term. That's not the acronym anymore. I mean, it's the overuse of the term.
Well, can you explain that a bit? Because maybe our viewers aren't sure
It's
what
like,
you're...
if I understood what you're putting on the table, people are using something like SaaS for things that are way beyond the boundaries of SaaS. But then it's not really the acronym, it's the use of the term itself. They could call it Mercedes, and it would be the same problem. Nothing against Mercedes.
Which is not an acronym.
Same thing.
Right.
As far as we know, it's not an acronym. Maybe it's a really fancy acronym.
But
that's the thing. I'm sure that somebody has an acronym, Mercedes, somewhere, because people will acronym anything.
True. Could be a new Stride-like categorization of threats. The Mercedes method of threats.
Main event repository of chained execution data entered Sunday.
Solidarity.
Entered Sunday.
Yeah. So I guess, this acronym conversation is kind of, I guess we talked about a bunch of different AppSec acronyms and stuff. And, this is kind of been a warm up for the issue that I want to throw on the table right now, because this one may end up being more controversial, more in depth. But to me, we've got all these AppSec acronyms, and I've seen a pattern where some people think AppSec is just SAST and DAST and tooling. They think of AppSec as this is just a tooling thing. Like, I'm an AppSec. I've seen a lot of people described as AppSec engineers. And when I look at like a job posting for AppSec engineer, and it will say you need proficiency in one of these types of SaaS tools, one of these types of DAS tools, your job description is to ensure the tools are running and spitting out data. And for me, that's a component of AppSec, sure. That's not AppSec in its entirety. But I feel like that is a place where acronyms meld together with a misrepresentation, perhaps, of what all of AppSec entails versus just focused on the tooling. So what have you guys seen in your travels?
I think that people like to chain acronyms the same way that they chain concepts. And that's where things break a bit for me. Because they have a tool that does this, and a tool that does that, and a tool that does the other one, and each one of these is an acronym, and they say, my CI/CD is covered because I have these acronyms along it, okay? But then you go and you look at our lovely acronym TM, and with all due respect to all the tools out there, right, you can go and press buttons as much as you want. What's going to come out is not a 100% threat model, because there will always be the conceptual stuff that needs a person to actually look and ideate in there. So to just hide the completeness of the process behind the amount and the connectiveness of those acronyms, and build that huge string of acronyms that you hope somehow solidifies the security that you have in your processes, to me is just a bit more security theater, right? If you don't have the people glue in the middle, if you don't have the conceptual layer, if you don't have the what could go wrong and what are we going to do about it, then you just got a bunch of robots talking to each other, and that's going to be... It's a lofty goal to get to. I don't think that we're there yet.
When you say security theater, you're referring to Bruce Schneier's definition or use of that term, in that it is security that is done for people to feel like things are more secure, when in fact it doesn't improve. It's not necessarily improving the overall security. Is that the definition or the way you're thinking of security theater?
That is the primary definition that I know, and that's the one that I'm using here, with the added meaning, perhaps, of a bit of a puppet theater, where you are seeing the shadows moving, and you think that there's a whole story and costumes and scenarios involved, but basically it's just a shadow.
So I think, Chris, you're touching upon something. I mean, what you just said was you're touching upon the whole compliance versus security discussion, right? Which is doing things that you can demonstrate easily, that you can get metrics from, that you can check boxes from, but not necessarily that gives you assurance in the security posture of the system. When you proposed this, actually, I was kind of wondering where the acronyms side fit in. I don't see the connection as well, although CI/CD was a good one that we should have. There's CI/CD, continuous delivery, continuous integration, continuous delivery, and there's one other one, but I don't remember. C something that goes with that.
Continuous stress modeling. No.
Well, there's that too, but that's 3 letters, not 2, and not related to that part of the pipeline. And so I want to be careful here that, there is benefit, I think, to having people run these automated tools. But as Izar said, there's parts that require human intervention in order to get full value out of it. And so I think we have done something has happened. I don't know if it's specifically AppSec that's done it, or marketers or business people or whoever. I believe it's probably business folks who drive to market as a goal. And so what happens is, well, how do you do all the things that security needs you to do in an efficient manner? Well, you run a tool. We know that tools enable productivity. The problem is tools are not 100% effective. They aren't necessarily effective at all against the technologies that we're working on. And I think we've either had an episode or we'll have an episode coming up about something like that, I'm sure, around effectiveness of tools. And so we have to recognize that you're not going to get full benefit out of just running a tool. Right, and AppSec cannot be just running a tool, because you'll miss a large portion of, or some portion of your security posture as a result.
So that leads me to ask the question: what is AppSec? What's the definition of AppSec? I have mine. I have my own definition, but I'm going to hold it until the end. I want to know what you both think of when you say if you had to answer this question, the definition of application security is.
So let me take a stab at that. And this is going to be completely left out of my head, because obviously you've been thinking about it a lot longer than I have. I think if I were to define AppSec, application security, it is an area, say, I guess a knowledge domain or a functional domain of system development that strives to reduce or improve the security posture and gain assurance and confidence about that posture to minimize the impact to a system.
Yeah.
Very clinical definition there.
And to my view, very correct. The one thing where I'm going to start asking questions is...
Just one question.
AppSec. What's an application? What's security? And when do you want to know? Because the thing is, AppSec, once upon a time... Okay, let's go back. Back. And once upon a time, there was security. Actually, before that, I would say that before security, there was network security, right? Because this whole thing just started when we started connecting cables to cables.
Yeah. I mean, we called it security in those days, though.
Yeah.
We didn't specifically call it network security. It was just security.
But then when we started putting all those Cisco boxes and blinking lights and things were talking to each other, all of a sudden it became network security because one of those pipes was going outside and talking to other people that we don't know. That was like the limit of our perimeter was I know you.
So let's take a step. We just need to take a quick step back. Even before that, there was already physical security and personnel security.
Right, but we don't care about those guys.
But it matters.
It does matter. But the thing is that at that point, I think that this thing that we called security was basically very analogous to what Matt just said. Sitting in the tower, sitting in the fence, and making sure that nobody was coming in. And that was good. We knew the people who were inside, we trusted them to different values of trust. And anyway, the systems couldn't do too much stuff. Roll all the way back in. We passed the desktop age. We passed the new mainframe age. We passed the network as the computer. We passed, what else have we got to cloud? We got to hybrid clouds. We got to public clouds. Now we have serverless, and things are just going
ubiquitous computing, and
right. So they're getting more and more diffused. And now we have that huge discussion between everybody wants to do DevOps, but we say they should be doing DevSecOps, and the Sec is silent. And sitting on the fence, looking outside with the rifle in your hands, shooting at whomever comes in, doesn't work anymore, because now you can't really say who you trust, who you don't, to which extent. Inside, you shouldn't and probably trust everybody to the same extent. So all that good stuff. What I'm trying to say is that application became not anymore just that binary running in one computer that you have to sort of do something so that most people can do anything with it. It became this much more amorphous thing that I am a developer, but I am also an infrastructure person, but I am also somebody that deals with the building pipe, but I am also the troubleshooter, and I am support, and I am the security guy. So that application acquired levels and levels and levels of things that need security. And now the other definition, security. What is it that we're trying to do? We're trying to keep anybody who's not wanted, authorized, authenticated, to interact with all these different layers that we have that make up our application, right? Which leads me to the question. What was the question again?
Definition of application security.
Yeah, that. So my personal definition now is if you are involved in any part of the development of something that can be construed, compacted, limited as an application, then you need to some extent to have, you have to some extent responsibility over its security. And that to me is what closes the whole DevOps, DevSecOps discussion. Like, it's not enough that I am writing the thing and I have to keep an eye on how it performs. I am also writing the thing. I have to keep an eye on how it gets deployed and what does that mean in terms of who can get to the thing.
I want to counter. I think I want to counter something you just said there. First off, or maybe I want to counter it in a different way. AppSec. Can AppSec exist without DevSecOps as an operating model?
Yes.
Yes.
So in that case, we now use DevSecOps as the model by which we execute or perform a lot of the AppSec functions. But AppSec is not DevSecOps, right?
Yes. But in the same vein, can a car exist without tires? Yes, but can it run? Not really. Nowadays, everybody's trying to get to the DevSecOps layer of things.
Yeah, but AppSec and DevSecOps are definitely different things. AppSec, and here's how I come to that conclusion. AppSec will still exist whenever the next thing after DevOps is created. Right?
Yes.
We know we've been through a cycle of waterfall, agile,
yes.
DevOps. There will be something else. Like, We know there'll be something else. We don't know what it is, but there will be a newer methodology. And I would argue that AppSec will still apply to that next methodology.
But wait, my math was going somewhere, and I cut with the car. So go back there.
I wanted to separate the method by which we do application security from the thing that we're doing.
But that's the thing. Go back to my timeline. Back then, when it was network security, AppSec in double quotes, quadruple quotes, was sitting on the perimeter, not letting anybody come in. And today, AppSec is DevSecOps, right? And all that stuff. And as Chris points out, tomorrow it's going to be something else. It's going to be us saying what ChatGPT said is just bullshit. Can I say bullshit? Well,
you
just did.
Whether you can or not is a different.
No,
that's a totally different question. But I mean, DevSecOps there's so much more to AppSec than DevSecOps, right? DevSecOps is not like it is, training, for example. Training sits at this. For me, training, I think of training as the secure development lifecycle, which wraps around my DevOps pipeline, but also covers a lot of other things. And so I think of them as separate. I think of them as not the same thing. AppSec and DevSecOps are not, in my mind, not the same thing.
In your presentation at the Global OASP last week, you said something like the infinite loop is not the best representation. And I think that sometimes we catch the SSDLC loop as our best representation for AppSec. And we don't recognize the fact that, as you just said, things change in the ways that they happen. So let me put this in a different way. Is AppSec something that is fully represented by the SSDLC loop? By the
so let's define that acronym first.
Yeah, please.
Well, so what acronym are you using? Because there are now here's another one.
True.
Similar to SCA that has multiple potential.
So the secure software development lifecycle.
Right, and so that's the second S is the key part I want to ask there. So I think of SSDLC as
the software,
secure system development lifecycle.
Yeah.
And the discussion you had earlier about network security, right? When I think of network security and application security as two different subdomains of security. Cybersecurity and network security is all about perimeter defense. Make sure that data center is secure. Make sure my network of laptops is secure. And then the applications sit on top of those things that are within the perimeter. Traditional networking, obviously, and they are different domains. So the first question is, do you see that there's a domain separation? Second question, is AppSec software focused?
Mm-hmm. We really opened a can of worms here, didn't we?
And I'm gonna bring that. For folks who have listened to this podcast series, may have picked up. I tend to look at the system, and that includes physical systems often, right? And so hardware and firmware and the network but also the processes, the people that are involved.
Yeah.
And not all of that is within AppSec, I think. At least traditionally, people don't consider all of that within AppSec. But
and I've heard people I've heard people hate on the AppSec term for that reason by saying, hey, the world is more than software. Like, for example, in Dublin, we saw OWASP is no longer open web. OWASP is now open worldwide. As in there's another acronym. We didn't even talk about OWASP. We talked about Open Worldwide Application Security Project. So they're still using application security, but they've changed the focus, right, from web, which we know the world is so much bigger than web, to worldwide.
So while I completely support the change, I really, really support the change. Isn't it funny that we are talking on one side about security and the other side something that's open worldwide?
Yeah.
To me, it does have a thing of anyway. But one very important thing. We haven't spoken about the most important acronym of all. WIT. Where is Tanya?
Where is Tanya?
So we had Tanya today as well, but we hope that she's going to join us in the next one.
Yeah. So with that, I think we'll call this meeting of the security table to a close. I don't feel like we maybe came to any conclusions coming out of this.
Nope.
I think we just asked a lot of questions,
Yep.
and we went on this. We kind of went on this journey from acronyms all the way to what is application security. But I think we got to come back around and talk about this some more next time, because there's more work to be done here.
Yep.
Yeah.
The what is AppSec is a nice one to go back to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
So
we also
will.
have lots of acronyms to work with. I mean, CAPTCHA, come on.
Oh,
Well, at least we put some of those acronyms in the air now. So they're in the ether. They're floating around. We can use them at will while we still try to define them. So, folks, tune in for the next episode. We're going to continue this conversation about what is application security, is AppSec, DevSecOps, and I'm sure a bunch of other things that will come up. So tune in for the next episode.